They say information is power, but today biased media has become America's greatest danger. From blatant propaganda to calculated lies, the truth is under attack. It's time to stop the spin and reclaim reality.
All right, welcome to This Explainer. Today we're cracking open what I seriously consider to be the ultimate survival manual for navigating our, frankly, incredibly confusing modern media landscape. Look, we live in a world where we have more access to information than any humans in history, right? Yet, it has literally never been harder to figure out what's actually true. So we're going to break down exactly how you can detect hidden bias, spot propaganda, and really protect your mind from being manipulated. Let's get into it. Okay, let's dive into this by looking at something we all recognize, a die-hard sports fan. When you see a fan with their face completely painted, screaming in the stands, their bias is 100% obvious. I mean, we expect them to be biased. Their goal isn't fairness, it's just cheering for their team. And they wear that bias right on their sleeve. But news media bias, that is fundamentally different. The bias hidden inside news articles, videos, and even research is subtle. And that's exactly what makes it incredibly dangerous. It often masquerades as perfectly neutral, fair information. There's this famous quote that goes, "A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is putting on its shoes." Now, this is usually attributed to the famous writer Mark Twain, but, and here is the absolute irony of this, there's actually a really good reason to doubt Mark Twain ever said this at all. The very fact that we all believe he said it, that perfectly proves the quote's own point. It brilliantly establishes the high stakes of unchecked information in our digital age. So here is the clear step-by-step playbook we're using today. Number 1, the hidden bias problem. 2, your brain's blind spots. 3, how falsehoods spread. 4, red flags in news. 5, verifying source credibility. And 6, defending the truth. Okay, let's jump in. Section 1, the hidden bias problem, or rooting for ideas. You see, just like those sports fans root for their favorite teams, authors and journalists, well, they root for things too. They root for ideas, they root for laws, specific research outcomes, products, you name it. They basically want to promote their team's side of the story. Now, don't get me wrong, some bias is perfectly fine. Bias can rally a team. It can help win a debate for the greater good. But while a little bias is totally okay in, say, an opinion piece, we absolutely rely on neutral, fair information for the really critical, world-shaping decisions in our lives. If you want to actually understand the current state of climate change or make informed decisions about science, education, or government policy, you simply cannot depend on just one team's biased perspective. We need unbiased facts. Moving on to Section 2, your brain's blind spots and psychological flaws. Because here's the thing, before we can learn to spot fake news out in the wild, we have to look inward. If you don't understand your own psychological vulnerabilities first, well, no amount of fact-checking is really going to save you. There's this really great anecdote about 2 old friends sitting in an Alaskan bar arguing about God. One is a priest, and the other is an atheist. The atheist says, "Look, I tried praying once. I was caught in a terrible blizzard, 20 below zero, totally lost. I literally fell to my knees and cried out to God to save me." The priest smiles and says, "Well, you must believe now because here you are, alive." The atheist rolls his eyes and goes, "No, that's not how it happened at all. A couple of wandering Eskimos just happened to walk by and showed me the way back to camp." It's funny, but it perfectly shows how 2 people can view the exact same survival event through totally different lenses. So what you just saw in that little story is something called confirmation bias. This is our tendency to look for, interpret, and recall information in ways that affirm the preconceptions we already hold. Basically, whenever we encounter objective facts, we automatically process them through the lens of our existing beliefs. And this bias is incredibly strong when we're dealing with emotionally charged issues. Think about it. If you firmly believe sugar is toxic, you're not going to Google the positive effects of blood glucose, right? No, you're going to instantly search how bad is sugar for you. You actively seek to confirm what you already think you know. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the number 55. This relates to another huge mental blind spot we have, called the availability heuristic. This is where we drastically overestimate the danger of things we just see a lot of. For example, people often think terrorism is the absolute biggest daily threat to them, mostly because the news covers it constantly. But if you look at the actual statistics, falling televisions cause 55 times more deaths than terrorism. You are literally more likely to be killed by a falling TV or a coconut dropping on your head than a terrorist attack. But because the attack is a way scarier story, it gets the coverage, and our brains mistakenly inflate the actual statistical danger. All right, Section 3, how falsehoods spread through circular reporting. So now that we know exactly how our own brains trick us, we need to examine the external threat. Let's look at the actual mechanics of how the media ecosystem accidentally and honestly sometimes purposefully amplifies total lies. Our constant desire for quick answers has created the ideal conditions for a massive problem known as circular reporting. And it works exactly like this. Publication A publishes a piece of misinformation. Then Publication B aggregates or reprints that exact story. Finally, Publication A writes a follow-up piece and actually cites Publication B as the verified source. Just like that, a single unverified claim looks like a widely confirmed fact. It's crazy. This happens with user-generated content like wikis all the time. An unverified fact gets added to a wiki, a journalist grabs it for an article, and then that published article is added right back to the wiki as the official citation. It even happens with jokes. A totally satirical article about the energy expenditure in adolescents playing new-generation computer games was actually referenced in serious scientific publications over 400 times because of this vicious cycle. And this brilliantly illustrates just how high the stakes really are. Back in 1998, a single pseudoscientific paper was published arguing that routine childhood vaccines cause autism. Now, years later, that original paper was repeatedly and thoroughly discredited by the scientific community. Yet, because of how falsehoods spread like wildfire, it spawned an entire global movement. And today, deliberately unvaccinated children are contracting contagious diseases that have been virtually eradicated, with some of these infections proving fatal. A single absolutely false source can have devastating real-world consequences. Which brings us to Section 4, Red Flags in News and Spotting Propaganda. We have officially arrived at the climax of this explainer. It's time to shift gears from understanding the problem to building our concrete, actionable toolkit for spotting this stuff. So the crucial point is knowing exactly what questions to ask the second you open an article. First off, look for financial motivations. Does the author earn money or benefit by promoting this one specific idea? Second, are they completely ignoring contrary perspectives? If they're only giving you one way to think about a subject, yeah, that is a massive red flag. Third, look at their citations. If the sources they cite are deeply biased themselves, the whole article is likely built on misinformation. And finally, watch out for insulting language or aggressive buzzwords being used to describe the other side. Actually, let's dig a little deeper into that last point. This is a technique known as loaded language. It's basically a propaganda tactic where specific words and phrases with incredibly strong emotional implications are used to influence an audience. The whole goal here is to completely bypass your logical brain and manipulate your feelings directly. If you're reading an article and it's clearly trying to make you angry or fearful by using emotionally charged adjectives instead of just giving you the facts, your alarm bells should be ringing loudly. Then there's another really dangerous technique, the half-truth. You see, the most effective propaganda out there usually isn't a total blatant lie. No, it's a selectively edited truth designed specifically to trick you. A half-truth includes a genuine element of reality, but it deliberately omits key contextual facts. Or maybe it uses selective quoting and improper punctuation to change the meaning of a sentence entirely. It essentially gives you just enough reality to make the deception entirely believable. All right, Section 5, Verifying Source Credibility, or Cleaning Your Window. So, how do we actually fight back against all these half-truths and circular reporting? Let's get into the protocol for cleaning our media window and verifying if a source is actually credible. Here are the 3 strict steps for verification that you should be applying to any piece of sensationalist media. Step 1, trace the original source. Do not just trust the aggregator. Click those links until you find exactly where the data came from. Step 2, actively search for criticisms of that suspicious information. Remember that confirmation bias we talked about? You have to fight it by intentionally looking for the counterargument. And step 3, check for diverse coverage across the political spectrum. And honestly, that third step is vital. You have to step outside your media bubble to reveal your blind spots. One of the absolute best ways to find the objective truth is to see how entirely different sources, from left-leaning publications all the way to right-leaning ones, cover the exact same headline. You might find that a story seems super moderate in one place, but highly sensationalized in another. By comparing diverse coverage, you can filter out all that loaded language and start to see a clear, objective through line of facts. Finally, Section 6, Defending the Truth and Our Responsibility. Let's look at how this builds into our everyday lives. Because defending the truth isn't just about winning arguments on the internet. It is our overarching responsibility as modern digital citizens. The Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman said something really profound. He said, a reliable way to make people believe in falsehoods is frequent repetition, because familiarity is not easily distinguished from truth. Take a second and really let that sink in. Just because you see a headline repeated by 10 different sources in your newsfeed doesn't automatically mean it's true. Your brain will automatically want to trust things it hears often, and that is exactly why slowing down, pausing your initial emotional reaction, and actively reflecting on the sources is absolutely vital to your media survival. Which brings us right back to where we started today. We know that a lie can travel halfway around the world before the truth even gets its shoes on. So my final question to you is this. What are you doing to tie the leases? The next time you feel completely outraged by an article, are you going to check the source's financial motivations? Will you stop and look out for loaded language? It's up to you to apply this survival guide. Step outside your media bubble and help the truth catch up. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember, keep asking the right questions.
Thanks for joining me today as we fight back against media bias. If you would do me a huge favor, like it, subscribe, and join me in the next video.